Morning, everyone. Welcome into Ask Andrew Live. And I told you I was going to have a special guest this morning because I don't know how far your announcement has traveled.
I don't know.
So there may be a lot of people that don't know that you're officially here with us now at WQAD, which is beyond exciting. In case you forgot, tell us who you are.
I am Allison Mills. I am a Sterling native, and I was here this summer as a weather intern. So if you saw any of my packages or any of my content this summer, because I am going to school at Northern Illinois University to get my meteorology degree. So I'm very, very excited to be back.
Yes.
I'm back with this guy.
Yes, and we are so happy to have her. Allison's now working with our digital folks, so a lot of website related stuff, but as you can see, when we get the chance, we're still going to pull you over here to the weather side because we know you got a lot of expertise there. So we're happy to have Allison along. She's my special guest today. We're going to rock.
Yes.
Everybody else is on vacation. You know what? It's okay. Don't blame them. It's Thanksgiving week. So we're still, though, going to bring you an Ask Andrew segment today. We've got a lot to talk about, some winter weather, some cold that I don't want to talk about.
No.
I'm tired of talking about the cold, but we're going to have to talk about it anyway. And we're going to take your weather questions, too, as we go throughout this morning. So I hope everyone is doing well, ready for the big Thanksgiving holiday tomorrow. I know I've got plans. I've got to go to 2 Thanksgivings tomorrow. I'm going to go to my family, and then Marcus will go to his family for Thanksgiving as well. So I'm making sure to, like we said earlier, we're going to eat light today to try to make some room for that stuff tomorrow.
Yes. Don't want a tummy ache.
No, No, the antacids, I think, are going to be popping all over the place for a lot of us. So I'm going to go home tomorrow to Sterling, then go down to Marcus's folks there in the Galesburg-Knoxville region. What's your plans tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I do have one Thanksgiving, and then the other one is on the weekend. So kind of easy, just relaxing, going to take a break. Semester is on break right now, so I'm enjoying not the need to have to push through homework, though I still have projects to work on, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm excited for an easier day, we'll put it that way.
I remember those breaks. The projects did not stop around Thanksgiving. That was for after Christmas when the semester was over, right? So you get to breathe a little bit easier, but you still got to breathe a little harder at times.
Exactly, yes.
But it's a good kind of semi-relaxing vacation, I guess you could call it.
And out to travel as much, so that's nice.
Yeah, that's true. You get to save a little on gas, which is really nice. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started. Also, I want to give a shout out to Marcus, who's here right now. Do you want to come say hi? Do you want to wave in the background? He surprised me this morning. I tell you what, he's the sweetest thing. He brought me breakfast and coffee this morning. You are just the nicest guy. There he is. He's behind us. Oh, Brandy says hello. So I want to thank him. He's such a sweetheart. He is a blessing. Let's go ahead and get started with today's episode. First, I want to highlight something that we've all been working on the last couple of months here. That's our winter weather special. Now available on our Plus app, which is where you're most likely watching us right now, streaming on your smart television. So check this out. If you're curious what this upcoming winter season is going to offer. And by the way, I do believe winter starts on Sunday. Meteorological winter. So if you're curious, are we going to get a lot of snow? Are we going to get a lot of cold? We're going to answer all those questions. It's a 30-minute special. It's a quick one. And we even get into some deep topics, including what La Nina is going to play, the role it'll play. Morgan talks about snow ratios and fluffy snow versus really wet snow. It's really interesting. So check it out. You can find it streaming right now on demand. Plus, if you watch the special, you're going to want to listen for a key word that James is going to say. That key word you'll take to our website, and you could enter that for a chance to win a snowblower. I almost said snowmobile. Wouldn't that be generous? Because aren't those things like $10,000, $15,000 a pop?
Something like that.
Man, if we start giving away snowmobiles, you give me a call. I will temporarily not become an employee of WQAD so that I can enter that contest. But no, this is a snow blower. I want to reiterate, not a snowmobile, not a ski-doo. It is a snow blower. And that's presented by our friends at Peterson Plumbing and Heating. So check that out. Want to recap what we talked about today in today's question. It was a good one. And it came from Adam in Morrison asking, how does Thanksgiving this year compare to previous years? Is it one of the coldest? Surprisingly, it is not. It's not even in the top 10 coldest, because look at what we've done in years past. These are the number of days with highs in all of these different temperature ranges, from the teens all the way to the 60s. And if you look at the 20s and the teens column, there's 21 days worth of that. I can't say that I remember in my lifetime when it was in the 20s and teens, but the fact that that has happened, oh, goodness.
Maybe we should count our blessings.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't really have a right to complain this year about the 30s coming in, considering we've been colder. So in the 30s column, you notice both the 30s and 40s are kind of the middle of the road there, what we've seen the most of. So this is not too unusual. We're going to attack another tally in the dry column this year because we're not going to have any rain or snow. Even though, if you were on social media, you know, those social meteorologists last week were pushing all these snowfall graphics about heavy snow in central Illinois and even touching some of the Quad Cities. But it's further proof you can't trust that stuff so far in advance.
It's too far out. There's too much uncertainty. We still need, sometimes when you go that far out, the systems that we use to determine these snowfall rates haven't even touched the United States yet.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's hard for us to know what's going to happen.
I know it looks exciting. I know it looks beautiful on all those maps, but yeah, you can't put much credit in them. We always say even 5 days out, there's going to be a lot of change.
Yes.
And that was a valuable lesson that hopefully a lot of us are going to remember when the next big snowfall is expected to fall somewhere close by. If you're curious about the rest of Thanksgiving data temperature-wise, I broke this down a little bit further last night, put it into this lovely little graph. I love Excel. I'm an Excel guy. I love breaking down data. These are all the high temperatures that we've seen on Thanksgiving Day in the Quad Cities since 1874. And what we're able to do with the graph when we plot this is we're able to put in a trend line. So you can see, is Thanksgiving getting warmer or is it getting cooler in the Quad Cities? And it is getting warmer. If you go out to the early 1900s, granted you have to remember this started in 1874, so it's a limited data set there, but the average temperature started around 40 degrees. And now you take this all the way out to now and it looks like our average high is in the mid 40s.
I'll take that.
Yeah, so Thanksgiving's getting warmer. It's no surprise. We've talked about this. Fall is a warming season in the Quad Cities, and remember, winter is the fastest warming season in the Quad Cities, and the data still supports that. So I thought that was interesting. Even though we're not going to be, you know, in the mid-40s this year, we're going to be in the mid-30s. What can you do? Let's talk about something really quickly, and then we're going to brush it under the rug, and I don't want to talk about it again until I have to get to the 11 today. And that's the wind chills that are coming in this upcoming weekend. It is the first set of negative wind chills of the season. A lot of us probably not ready for this quite yet. Who I really feel for, of course, is our population that doesn't have any housing. This is, you know, really going to be a big, big impact to those folks that don't have adequate shelter or housing. We're talking about Friday morning wind chills in the single digits, and then we've got single digits below zero as we go into Sunday morning. Don't forget about your pets too. I mean, I know they have fur, but still, this is a little chilly for them to be outside for long periods of time too.
Yeah, my dog, I have to take her outside when we go out, and I have to rush her because she wants to smell all the smells. And for some reason, when it's colder, it's better for her to smell. And I'm like, okay, come on, we got to get our business done so we can go in.
You know, Cooper's the same way, and I'm like, what is it about the cold air that makes you just want to prance around out here even longer? You know, I don't understand it.
No, thank you.
I really don't. But yeah, let's get ready for those negative wind chills this morning, and definitely bundle up for those. Travel-wise, and actually I'll remind you while we're doing this, if you have questions, put them in at 309-304-0888, and we're going to get to those right after this discussion here. If you're traveling, here's your trouble spots. It's going to be central to downstate Indiana through the Ohio Valley, Pennsylvania, especially some lake effect snow that's expected in that direction. That could be a big problem getting into tomorrow and also into Friday. Generally speaking, if you're heading east and northeast of the Quad Cities, that's where you're going to run into problems past Michigan. Everywhere else is really quiet. We're really fortunate this time of year. Many of you are wondering how long this Arctic blast is going to stick around. Again, the worst of it, this is this weekend. By the time we get to, this is going 10 days out. So we're looking at about December 2nd here right now. This would be next Monday. You notice that Arctic air is easing a little bit. It's moving off to the east, but we still are in very close proximity to the Arctic air as we go through the first full week of December. And I also want you to look at what's happening back here to the west. We're seeing another reloading of some Arctic air that may eventually pivot its way back down. That doesn't mean we're going to be cold all the time. I think eventually we'll tap into some of this warmth in the southwest, but you can plan on the next couple of weeks being chilly around here. But believe it or not, you know, even though the next several days are going to be chilly, this month is still going to be much warmer than average. If you look at the numbers, we're 5.7 degrees warmer than normal right now for the month of November. Granted, we haven't had these colder days yet, but still, 5.7 is a big, big jump up considering we're this late in November.
That's surprising.
And you and me, you know, both have taken some statistics. you know how impressive that number is, because when we talk about the average, that's all your high temperatures, your low temperatures mashed together. It's no easy feat to get a 5.7 degree bump
No, not
at the
at
end of
all.
the month. So that is really impressive. September, October were all warm months. The only two cooler than normal months we've had this year were July and August because they were wet. That was the big thing. We're actually wetter this month, but not by a whole lot. 1/100th of an inch. Whoop-de-doo, right? Yeah, that's not very exciting, but it could be worse. Also, if you were curious, yes, we did log our first trace of snow. That was just in the last week or two. So now that is done and over with. If you're curious when our first inch of snow is, that's going to be coming up later this month and as we go into the new month of December. That's usually when we see the first inch or more. But I don't have really anything in the forecast in terms of snow right now. If you're looking for snow, though, go near a lake. There is going to be some very, very heavy lake effect snow here heading into parts of New York and Pennsylvania. Near Erie and also into Buffalo, right along Interstate 90 there. This is the probability of 2 or more inches of snow through Friday, and it's very high. You can see 95. You can even get into the 4-inch probabilities here, also quite high. And the Great Lakes, I was just reading yesterday, their water temperature is still in record warm levels for this time of year.
Wow.
So it's cooking. And you know what that translates to? Energy
Moisture.
and moisture for snow. And there could be quite a lake effect snow event going on here in the next couple of weeks with all of this cold air coming in. So we'll get back to answering some of your questions here. We're going to pull up our live stream because that's where some of the questions are being hosted. A reminder again to get your questions to us. The number that you want to text is 309-304-0888. And I finally got that number memorized now that we're in like the 9th episode. It took me a while. You know, I knew the 0888, that part's easy, but the rest of it, it took me a few minutes to get that figured out. So we'll see if we have any questions. You might beat me to it.
At the stream. Yep.
It takes me forever to get to the Facebook stuff because they keep changing the app and all this other
All right, I do
fun
have
stuff.
one. It says, how do temperatures, it's from Tyler, how do temperatures differ when there is snow and when there isn't snow?
Great question. So if we had snow on the ground right now, the temperatures that we would have forecast here for the next several days, you would shave about 10 to 15 degrees off those numbers. One thing to remember is snow on the ground has what we call a very high albedo.
Yep.
Not libido. Don't say libido. You're in the wrong stream if you're talking about libido, but we're talking about albedo. Do you want to explain what albedo is and how that all works?
I'm not positive on the albedo, but I know it has to do with radiation. So
Yes.
what it has to do is when there's sunshine, we have the heat from the sun coming down to Earth's surface. And when there's something blocking that ground, the Earth has a blanket on it, so it's not able to absorb that warmth. So we're losing that heat throughout the day. Did I explain that correct?
You did.
Yay.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And there's an example of this too that I was able to find. So when you talk about that, like Allison said, you're talking about these differences in energy. Snow being so bright reflects a lot of that energy back into the atmosphere versus the bare ground that can absorb a lot of it.
Correct.
That's why they say if you live in the desert Southwest, you're crazy getting a dark colored vehicle. Like dark blue or black, because you're attracting all of the sun's energy to your vehicle.
Yep.
And you're making it an oven. You're smart to get a white vehicle if you live in the Southwest because it reflects a lot of that heat energy and can make it cooler.
Yep.
Energy budgets. It's a fun thing.
For us anyway.
Exactly, yeah. Tyler's onto something though. That was a fantastic question.
Let's see here. Do we have nothing more yet? Oh, that's my way.
Where'd they go? Oh,
There we go.
See, Facebook's picking.
I
It's
know.
finicky.
Nope, no other questions, just highs and hellos.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Let us know what you're doing for Thanksgiving. What's the popular dish? Probably turkey, a lot of buddies
I
doing.
bet.
Ham.
I like Laura's comment. Says she's not ready for this, but will help my allergies and for a good hard freeze. Yes, allergies have been rough this year.
Yes, it seems like our allergy season was extended.
Yes.
We actually had a lot of plants reblooming again earlier this month because it got so warm.
They were confused.
Yeah, I had people telling me my irises are blooming again, and I said, what? In early November of all things. So yeah, this will put an end to the allergies. This is also going to put an end to any flying insects out there. They were going to have to go dormant now that this cold is coming in until it warms up again. So a lot of good news when it comes to this.
All right, we got another one. So Marcus from Knoxville.
Huh, who could that be?
All right, what causes an Arctic blast?
That's a very good question. So let's go back to our temperature map here. And I want to show you kind of what's going on with the pattern right now. So the reason that we get the Arctic air here is because it's being displaced by warm air that is somewhere where it usually isn't this time of year. And where do you think that somewhere is? I'll give you a hint. It's to the northwest of us.
Yep.
It's Alaska. So if you look at Alaska temperatures, I know you're seeing some pink up there, but I want you to kind of focus on this little corridor, and I'm going to see if this is going to let me draw here. There we go. Get my little arrow. So what you're looking for is this warm surge of air right in here, or even just to the west of that. And what it does is it takes the Arctic air that's usually over Alaska and points north, and it moves it south right into our region. We're always the bullseye when it comes to that kind of a pattern setup. So the cold air is just simply being displaced from its usual home, because where it's usually cold, it's actually warmer than it usually is this time of year. So Alaska gets the benefits, we do not.
No.
And they just kind of look at us and they laugh and they say, well, now you get a taste of what it's like to live in Alaska. How do you like that? Yeah, it's all about displacing that cold air where it usually sits. Good question.
All right.
Good question, Marcus.
Next one is from Abby. Is there a chance for snow before Christmas? And if so, how much?
That is a really, really good question. You almost need a crystal ball at this point
Yeah.
to try and figure that out. I can say, yeah, you're going to have the cold air in place. The one thing we've been missing is we haven't had an active jet stream close by to go along with that cold air. I think given the temperature pattern we've been in, it's favorable that we'll see some snow before Christmas in terms of how much. It's just too early in the game. But I can tell you, if you look at where the cold air is right now, and again, I'm going to see if I can draw on this for you, the jet stream has been displaced way, way, way far south. You're talking all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. That is too far south for any storm system to have an impact on us here in the Quad Cities. What we want to see is this jet stream move just a little bit further north, but we don't want all this cold air to go away. We want this cold air to move a little bit further to the east. If we can get that kind of a pattern to get in here, and by the time we get to next month, I think that would give us a pretty good favorable setup. In fact, this is kind of the pattern I would want to see right here, where we move this cold air further to the east and the jet stream can kind of come up a little bit further. The only problem we've seen recently is even if we get in this orientation, there's no storm systems taking advantage of that track, at least as of right now. So we're kind of in a quiet period.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Depending if you like snow or not.
Exactly. If you don't like snow, it's fine. It's just cold. But if you want snow, it's a frustrating period to be in because you've got the main ingredient here, which is cold. You're just missing that secondary ingredient, which is energy. Fingers crossed we'll get it. I have faith that we're going to have some snow before Christmas this year.
Which, that's the only time I like it. I only like snow for Christmas, and then that's it. Unless I can stay home and watch it and then have that snow globe effect, then I'm okay with that.
Yes, I'm the same way. I want it for the holidays. Once the holidays are over, okay, I'm ready to move on and get something warmer. Great question. Stay tuned.
Alec, we might know him.
Who could that be?
Says, my grandma tells me that I'll get sick if I leave the house during the winter without drying my hair. Will I get sick if I don't dry my hair?
Ooh.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. So Morgan and I, we did a verify a few years ago about not wearing a coat outside and getting like a cold. And that was not the case. We talked to somebody in the health field. We talked to a virologist because we know colds are viruses. And, you know, you having a coat on or not is not going to determine if you get a cold virus or not.
Correct.
You're going to get it regardless. But I will say, if your hair is wet and you're outside in the cold, you got to remember that you got a lot of heat loss that happens on the top of your head. So there is a real risk that you could potentially get hypothermia because you're lowering your body temperature with that wet hair. So Alec, yeah, she's onto something. I would not be outside in the cold very long with wet hair. That's why you want to wear a stocking when it's snowing because that could have an impact too. Dr. Shagnon at Northern Illinois University, he's not there anymore, he retired, but he had the best analogy, and I never thought of it this way until he told us. But think of it as when you're in the shower, and then you're getting out of the shower, and what happens? You freeze.
Yeah.
You didn't change the temperature of the bathroom. If anything, the bathroom got warmer because you're running hot water. But you're freezing because your skin is wet, and that water is evaporating, and it's pulling the heat away from you. Well, that's what's going to happen when your hair is wet. Isn't that crazy?
That's, yeah.
I'm like, this man is a freaking genius.
I love it when science makes sense.
Yeah. And I know a lot of folks too had that remedy of, well, if my child has a fever, like if they had a toddler that had a fever, you put them in the bath or the shower for a few minutes and then you take them out and their body temperature cools down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that something? Who knew? But that's another good moment there.
Yes. All right, let's see. From Michaela and Moline. Can you explain how snow can make sounds like crunching or squeaking?
Ooh, crunching or
like that one.
squeaking? That is
Yeah.
a really, really good question. Think about snow. It's made up of tiny, lots of frozen crystals. Almost like you're taking a handful of, do you guys know what Dippin' Dots are? The real
Oh,
small
yes.
dippity dot ice cream. So imagine that, but on a much, much smaller scale. And you're taking it and you're crunching it together. It's all those ice crystals crunching together. It's kind of a nice sound. For me, it's relaxing.
I think of bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap, yeah, exactly. That's another good analogy. Just take your bubble wrap on a much smaller scale. Think of like millions of them in your hand and you're crunching them together. When it comes to making that squeaking noise, you're going to find that a lot of times on ice, when you're walking on the snow on the ice, because of those different particles rubbing together. So that's a great question, too. I like that. We got some good ones today.
All right, next one's from Chad. What is the difference between this year's La Nina and 2020's?
The difference between this year and 2020. So when we had La Nina, and I'm going to look this up really quick just to make sure that I have the right numbers, I believe it was a stronger La Nina that year.
I believe so as well.
We're going to find out for sure. This is the website that I love to use. So let's see, with 2020, that was a moderate La Nina event. This year is expected to be a weak La Nina event. So what that means when we look at the forecast for the winter is we're going to have subtle interference with that forecast from La Nina. That year prior was more of a direct impact on the winter forecast. So we're not expecting as big of an impact. It's going to have a little bit of a say in what happens this winter, but it's not going to control the whole winter narrative. That's the main difference.
Which that plays a big factor in what we'll see.
That's right. The colder those waters are, the more movement the jet stream has. They're not expected to be nearly as cold as what we had in 2020 per se.
That year was a year for many reasons.
Yes, it was. I remember that year well. Great question.
All right, our next one is from Alina. Is the QC getting snow? So I guess it depends on what we're talking about, like right now or...
Yeah, you have to give us a time frame. I would say in the near term, the next week or two, no, I don't see it. But absolutely, at some point, we're going to have it. And even as I said before, I think before Christmas, there's a good chance that we would see some kind of measurable snow. I actually had something come up in my time hop yesterday where we had more than a foot of snow.
Oh, yeah.
At this point in November, I don't know how many years ago it was, maybe 6 years ago we had that. But it's possible. I just don't have anything on the radar here in the next 2 weeks. And going back to 2020, if you remember that, where we had, let's see, which one was it? It was, I think, the October 19th.
Yep.
Yes, where we had
was
that
early, yep.
early season snow. Notice we didn't have that this year. We had snow, our first trace of it anyway, just a few weeks ago, right about normal. So La Nina is not having much pull. And actually, we don't even have La Nina right now. We're still waiting for La Nina to develop. And check out what you wrote, because you wrote about
I
this
did write
this
about,
week.
yep,
Yeah.
I wrote an article about it explaining why we have a weak La Nina and how that'll impact our winter. So we're kind of in this holding period. So we're waiting to see whether those temperatures are gonna stay colder or if they're gonna warm up, which then plays a factor in how those conditions will affect our winter, which looking at the pattern setting up right now with this Arctic blast, we'll see plenty of cold air, that potential for more snow, but also it looks like there could be, with this late arrival with moving into a La Nina, a shortened winter season. La Nina and El Nino, they strengthen in the winter, so now that we're already heading into winter, meteorological winter is December 1st, but we're a couple more weeks away from the solstice. We're losing time for it to strengthen, so that's why we're seeing that weaker La Nina.
Exactly, and it just makes more of a headache for us to try and forecast what's going to happen this winter. But yeah, I want you to check that out because it's a really good piece to read. And this is what Allison's talking about. If you look at where the temperature is right now, this is the area of the East Central Pacific Ocean where we monitor for El Nino and La Nina conditions. Notice we're not in either right now. We're in between, which means neutral, nothing. The forecast is that we're eventually, sometime likely in January or even February, so like you said, it's later, then when it could have a bigger impact. We're eventually going to get into this weak La Nina here, and then eventually get out of that as we go into next summer. So it's all about the timing of this. That's very, very tricky. But like you said, with it being delayed, it's likely going to be less of an impact.
But it doesn't mean we won't see anything either,
That's right.
though.
You can't
Keep that in
discount
mind.
it.
No.
Yeah. It's not like saying, oh, happy days are here, La Nina's gone, don't have to worry about it. No, we still have to definitely watch it. And one of the things you have to watch too is remember the last time we came out of a La Nina winter, especially if we end up coming out of it again in the spring, is we had a bonker severe weather season around here.
Yes.
And that's kind of my fear going into next spring. So we'll see how that shakes out. Great question.
That is a good one.
My gosh, you guys are full of brains today. I love this.
All right, from Alexis, how do you determine if the snow will stick?
Good question. So a couple of things you're going to have to look at. The most important thing is your ground temperature. How cold is that ground? If it were to snow like it did a couple of weeks ago, coming off of a week where we were in the 70s for crying out loud, that snow's not going to stick very efficiently. But if we were to get snow after this upcoming week's worth of temperatures where we have daytime highs in the 20s, overnight lows in the teens, that's easy for snow to stick to. Super, super easy. And it doesn't matter whether it's wet snow falling or light, powdery, dry snow that's falling. It'll both stick.
Yep.
Yeah, so pavement temperature, ground temperature, those are very important when it comes to if snow is going to stick. You'll hear me talk a lot about that when we get to the snowstorms coming in and all that good stuff. I'm always pulling up the pavement temperatures and ground temperatures, so that's what we'll be watching.
All right. Let's see.
I think we have time for maybe one more. We're almost at 9:30, and again, if we miss it, we're going to catch you up next week, next Wednesday, if we end up missing one. Did we get everybody all caught up?
We did.
Hey, that's awesome. That doesn't happen very often. Usually we have a straggler that comes in late and we got to end up pushing it to next week. But that's great that we caught everybody's questions. There were some good ones today.
Yes.
Some very good ones. Love it. Keep them coming. And yeah, we'll see if we can work on getting some snow in here. We got the cold. It's like, yeah, you might as well throw some snow into the mix, but nothing on the radar right now.
Nope.
Got a ways to wait. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us, and thank you, Allison, for stepping in this morning.
Yes.
Maybe we can get you back here next week.
Maybe.
We'll see. If you're here on Wednesday, we'll pull you in. And again, thank you everyone at home for watching this morning. We enjoyed having you here. Again, this happens every single Wednesday, as long as it's not a big holiday. I know we got one of those coming up on a Wednesday. But we will be back next Wednesday right here on the WQAD 8 Plus app at 9 o'clock sharp. So make sure and come on back, bring your questions. We'll talk a little weather. Also, don't forget to watch our winter weather impact special streaming right here on the app for your chance to win that snowblower. Not a snowmobile, a snow blower. Get it right, Andrew. All right, you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Have a happy Thanksgiving from all of us here at WQAD. I'll see you coming up later this morning on GMQC.